As humans, all we know is planet Earth. And we know there's a universe out there, but we can't leave. So it's like all we know is Earth, right? But in some universes in fiction, apparently a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Earth not even being in the equation, there's like a galaxy-wide government or different governments throughout the centuries or ages. In this Star Wars verse, traveling throughout the galaxy is no big deal because they have light speed ships, the travel from planet to planet, blah, 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 ridiculously insane technology, a whole bunch of different species that live amongst each other. There's beings in the galaxies that are force users, beings that can pick up stuff with their mind, even trick you and go in your head, and they can use laser swords. You guys are probably already familiar with the Jedi, Sith Lord, stuff like that, but you're probably not familiar with the Nightsisters over there on Dathomir. And there's a character in particular I want to talk about, and that's the character known as Merrin. Most of the Nightsisters, let's just say the Nightsisters and Jedi have had a rocky relationship. And just like the Jedi, pretty much almost all the Nightsisters were exterminated or pretty much called to extinction. But you guessed it, with the exception of Merrin, one of the few characters that Cal Kestis has come across during his adventures. She can use the Force, pick up stuff with her mind, just like other Jedi, Sith Lord type characters, but she's a little bit more trickier because she's the magic user. There's magic in Star Wars. This is the stuff they specialize in. But let's analyze her. It's funny, on the Star Wars website, they even spell the word magic different. They call her a powerful magic-wielding member of the Mantis crew because, you know, she joined Cal Kestis and his crew during her adventures after they patched up their little beef. They're breaking the tradition, having Jedi and Nightsisters hang out. Like, this is different. She was used to a matriarchy and stuff. Both survivors, she escaped the massacre for herself. Both survivors of Fallen Order. They become allies, having her leave Dathomir finally, pursue her own path in the galaxy, exploring the galaxy. And if you want more lore on the Nightsisters, on StarWars.com, they pretty much break it down for you, talking about how they're from Dathomir. And they talk about how they're a coven of witches that lives on the mysterious world of Dathomir. They ruled unchallenged, gifted with the power to wield dark magics. The men of Dathomir, the Night Brothers, lived apart from the witches. Yeah, they was a legit matriarchy. They had the men obey their every whim. It's mainly because of beings like Grievous and Dooku is the reason why the Nightsisters kind of got massacred. A lot of them, that is, except for a few survivors like Merrin, which I'm going to talk about in this vid. She's one of the most dangerous characters because of her versatility. Obviously, physicals is not her strong suit, but notice how she falls from something this high and just lands on her feet like no big deal. Can hold her breath and swim deep in the ocean and stuff of that such. There's been plenty of showings throughout the game showing that she can actually do some decent or short-range versions of teleportation, how she helps Cal in the fight and then teleports away here. Examples like this one, how she teleported Night Brothers instantly to her side. In the newer game, one can say they give you a little vision on how she's able to teleport. One can say she can make her own little Doctor Strange type portals like this, like she did to help out Cal, to help them be able to kind of teleport certain distances. Like, this is how it looks when you go through an actual portal. One can say this not instantaneous, or she can't just teleport across to a different planet or nothing. Although it is true she can't teleport across planets or nothing, but she can teleport a good distance to where it's almost like super speed, to where she can teleport and save somebody's life that way. She has superhuman senses, like apparently she can sense great danger on Dathomir. She has strange abilities where it's almost like she's not physically there, but she can kind of telepathically talk to you even if she's not even close to you.
There she goes again.
I'll be watching.
Let's get out of here.
She has strange abilities that can actually hide entire ships from, like, detection, a ritual. She does this strange ability, and it makes this humongous ship completely invisible, basically, or cloaked. Does it in newer games as well, so this is just something she can commonly do consistently, cloaking entire ships, where other ships pass by them and they don't see them. Seems to always use this in her hand while doing it always, though. One can argue one of her most busted techniques is being able to reanimate corpses and make them fight beings like on some zombie type stuff. This is when her and Cal Kestis wasn't cool, of course, but yeah, this is kind of a busted ability that comes in handy. It's implied she can enchant her Night Brothers to fight beings she wants to fight. It's almost like she has the power to make the floor liquidy, to where she can use her power to kind of like make you have a literal grave on the spot and then harden the ground after you're in it. In newer stuff, it seems that she does similar stuff, trying to put this character into the wall, similar to how she did with Malicos, but in this occasion, it didn't necessarily work as well. It seems that she can just summon flame at will, green flame type energy, Nightsister magical type flame-ish type stuff. Yeah. You got occasions like this, how she produces fire. Use this magic for light if you can't see her. If you're in a desert storm type of thing, that comes in handy. She's very versatile. And then she has your standard, energy projection, green energy balls she can use. And yes, by the way, she can actually use the force without using the green energy you always see her use. Like occasions like this, you can literally see her do a force push without any green energy, implying like legit telekinesis, blast power type stuff. In the newer game, it's revealed that she actually is pretty decent at melee combat or close quarters combat, using a knife here. Seems to be a special knife because after stabbing a stormtrooper with it, you see it actually changed into a staff to where she can do staff type combat, melee type combat. Matter of fact, when Bo tried to offer her a gun, she said, "Nah, I got my knife that can turn into a staff whenever I want to." And she simply said, "No need." Completely just goes ham on these stormtroopers. Implications that her physicals ain't normal either, and teleport in the combat to close the distance a lot faster. Kind of can speed blitz you that way too. One can say fighting speed as well. Close the distance against you. Her tag team moves with Cal is just satisfying. And then you have moments like this where Cal isn't necessarily helping her at the moment, but she's still putting in work by herself. There's a legit 5-year time between the events of this game and the events of this game, and through that time period, it's implied she has gotten stronger with her power of skill as time went by, because it's mentioned.
You've learned some new tricks.
Looks like you have too. How did you do that?
A ritual I learned when I returned to Dathomir.
Part of her getting stronger is because of her doing travels, because she traveled throughout the galaxy to different civilizations over this 5-year time skip, which could explain what all the new tricks and powers she learned. Returned Dathomir, whispers to her sleeping sisters what she has learned upon visiting different places in the galaxy. So it's clearly obvious over time she's gotten better with her abilities. I mentioned earlier how she can shoot energy projection, whether it be just blunt force blast or green energy type balls like I mentioned earlier. Because just like other Star Wars characters, she specializes in blast power. She's no exception to this. Matter of fact, her and Cal Kestis are a good tag team when it comes to her blast, helping him out against a being that Cal couldn't take on by himself. Matter of fact, this force user, for example, Malicos, for example, was actually about to beat Cal. Cal was getting overpowered. He was on the floor like this and couldn't overpower his force grip. And he was legit about to get crushed, but Merrin's blast power could break big boulders like this and incinerate it, basically. To be honest, if it wasn't for Merrin's help, who knows if Cal Kestis would even still be alive. She came in clutch when it was needed, helping overpower him. Teamwork, baby. So she has to be somewhere comparable to Cal, I would say, but in her own way. She can use magics to restore stuff that was turned into chaos, basically repairing stuff with her magics, like even lifting up the big old stones of this bridge, for example. That's a lot of weight too. There's been multiple occasions in the game when you see her do stuff like this too, like when Cal accidentally had all this debris come down. That has to weigh at least 10 or 15 or 20 plus tons of debris or stone, and you can see the green around it. She's literally manipulating it to lift it up and fix it at the same time. This Nightsister magic is epic. Big vehicles like the ATST, despite their size, she can use her magics to kind of restrain them and tangle up their feet to where the ATST struggles to walk or move, restraining them with her power. You can literally see her little strings holding it down. You can see in occasions with big creatures like this, she can restrain it while Cal can hammer tail on them. I think moments like this prove that her using her magics can help her prepare stuff, and it can help lift up stuff that has to weigh over hundreds of tons. She can just lift it up with ease. To get a good idea of how big this stuff is, look how small she looks in comparison to the stuff she just lifted up and fixed. Matter of fact, Cal Kestis himself, somebody that has ridiculous feats when it comes to the heavy stuff he can lift with the Force, even complimented her.
Still impressive.
You have not seen the true extent of my powers, Cal Kestis.
And she has the nerve to call this light work and saying to Cal, you have not seen the true extent of her true power. So this is light work to her. And for those thinking she can't just lift up stuff, she has to fix it. Well, there's this occasion Cal was struggling to lift up a whole bunch of debris with the Force, right? Here she comes with the green and she's holding up the debris instead to show that she can hold up a lot of weight. I like the game. It helps you distinguish who's using the Force at the time. Most of the time in the game, you see her using a green aura, you know it's Merrin holding up the weight. And if you want to get a visual of how much weight she was holding, like I purposely did this for you guys in the game so you can see how much weight she was holding up, all them rocks and huge boulders. That junk, yeah, all that she's holding up. Strength. When Kyle and Merrin were working together in this big action set piece, they was going against this big old giant mechanized thing that was about the size of a building. Like I'm talking about something that looked like it weighed over hundreds of thousands of tons. they was kind of tangling with. This is probably one of the better examples to give you an idea of how strong Merrin and Kyle is, because this is something they work together against when it comes to using the Force and her Nightsister magic type stuff. Like, this thing is huge. Occasions like this, you can get an idea of how potent her blast power is to be able to do all this damage to this big old thing, breaking bits of it off to launch pieces of them back at himself. Merrin helping blast this thing apart, and her and Kyle working together, destroying something that's like literally building sized. Building blasting power she totally has after occasions like this. For example, Merrin may not be as strong as Mother Talzin. Talzin's like at the top of the food chain when it comes to the Nightsisters, but this gives you an idea of how strong some of them are. Fighting some top tier Jedi, some of the top tier Nightsisters can. You can even see Mother Talzin, for example, another top tier Nightsister, locking blades with Mace Windu. While it is true she's not invincible by any means, I definitely think she's definitely in the Inquisitorious range. I would say it like this: when it comes to raw blunt, raw force output, I would say Kyle has the advantage over her, but when it comes to versatility, she has the advantage. Would you say that's fair, right? But it's really hard to get a ranking on her. Maybe in the next game, hopefully they make her playable when she gets some more feats, you know? Who knows what the future will hold? How do we know in the next game they might have her and Kyle sink or move a Star Destroyer with their force abilities or destructive capacity, like Star Killer? Who knows what the future will do? Weirdly enough, Merrin actually...
I would really like to take out a Star Destroyer one day. Will you join me?
It's a date.
Do you guys think this is a Force Unleashed reference on how Star Killer moved the Star Destroyer? Do you think they'd do something like this? Or do you think that's too over the top for these characters? What do you guys think? I think that would be cool if they did something that over the top. People would have no choice but to respect the video game versions of these Star Wars characters. How strong do you think Merrin and Cal Kestis is compared to the Inquisitors or the Inquisitorious? Do you think they're up there with the Grand Inquisitor, or you think Merrin or Kyle fighting him would be a tough fight? Depending on what kind of ship we're talking about, I think with her blast power or lifting power, she can lift up certain ships or certain cargo ships with the Force or with her magics. It's one of them situations where it's really tough to say. We just know she can lift a lot, but how much is very unknown. Maybe we'll get more showing. I think a good way to understand her might is to compare her to other Inquisitor level beings. We've seen Force users like Kanan, for example, Inquisitor level being, fight the Grand Inquisitor. Same with Ezra Bridger. It's a common theme, them battling Inquisitors. Lower tier Force users that are nowhere near the level of Darth Vader, of course. And no, I'm not just talking out my butthole when I say these characters, Inquisitor level beings, can stop ships. This is something, for example, I do believe Merrin could do as well, like these Inquisitors can do. Not to mention characters like Kanan and Ezra have done even crazier stuff. These two use the Force to kind of move this big structure. One could say a mountain-sized type structure. So even beings that are not Vader level can kind of do stuff like this, twist it up, of course, one could say, which is impressive still, even if they're working together. This is also canon stuff. So one can say if Merrin was in that situation, she could possibly do something like that, move a mountain-sized structure, twist it upward. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot unknown, but there's a possibility, great possibility. If they can do something like this, there's a good chance Merrin can do, because we know Cal is on the par with them or better, at least. But what do you guys think? Do you think she can move this temple upward, twist it upward like how they did it when it comes to the Force, or with her magics, or with her blunt Force ability? What do you think? But at the end of the day, all of this could be just me. Hopefully in the last game or the trilogy, third game of this series, we get to actually play as her. That would be very fun and add something new to the combat. This is something both their clans would have hated. But can you imagine if their kid pops up in like a future movie or something? But who knows? You know what I mean? So much possibility. These characters are canon, by the way. But before I get going, what do you guys think? How strong do you think Merrin is? Do you think she's at the upper echelon of the Inquisitor level? Do you think she can battle the Grand Inquisitor? Or you don't think she's quite up there with the Grand Inquisitor? We know she's not up there with Vader or nothing when it comes to raw blunt power and stuff. But versatility-wise, she might be better than Vader. Versatility-wise. Because of her weird magics. Yeah, but guys, you really have no choice but to respect Merrin. But before I get going, I gotta say thank you all for the donations for the channel. Helps out a lot. Respect Merrin, though. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.